Hello and welcome to a very special Hawk Nest episode. I'm really proud to invite a special guest, our first guest on the program, my good buddy DMack. What's up,
I'm
DMack?
good to be here. First guest. I love it.
First guest on the Hawks Nest, man. It's a big deal. It's quite an honor.
Oh yeah, I
You got
love
to
it.
come correct today.
Love talking football. Love talking DBs. That's my MO.
So I thought this year, I've heard so many people in my chat on live stream hitting me up as far as the cornerback situation in Seattle and telling me about how horrible it is and how bad Tre Flowers is and how they've got to upgrade the situation completely. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I can understand where all of them are coming from in that aspect. And so I wanted to bring you onto the program. You're a former safety back in your college days. I'll let you give some of your resume over here a little bit, but we're going to just take a look at some of the cornerbacks in this draft, see who you like, see who you don't like, see who the sleepers are, see who might be a good fit with Seattle's scheme. But first up, let's get your a little bit of your background for the audience.
Okay. So a little bit of my background. So I played 4 years, obviously, in high school. Went to a small school in Mississippi. Then went to junior college, Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, where we played for a national championship and I actually won. So got a little bit of hardware, got a little
Look at that.
ring, official safety number 9, DMack. So
There you go.
play with a lot of credible guys. I mean, Terrence Cody went to Alabama as a nose guard. You got Tremaine Brock that played for San Francisco for almost 8 years. We had a quarterback that actually went as a wide receiver, Greg Jenkins. We've got a lot of different guys that went pro from that squad. So I had a really gruesome injury. I had a dislocation on my wrist that kind of put my NFL career to the side, but everything is good, and I still love the game. I'm passionate. I still have a good eye for talent and things like that. And I've been there, and I know the X's and O's.
Well, I can back that up too. I've been talking to you for the last bit of time about everything cornerback. You know your stuff as far as these guys go, and especially on the intricacies, which I can see kind of big picture stuff myself and feel pretty confident with that. But when it comes down to some of those small little things, which makes the biggest difference with the cornerback and safety play, right? Those are the things that really is what separates those guys. That's the things I think you really catch well, even above me. And that's where I really wanted to bring you in on this, because I think you really are going to have a good eye this year for Seattle potentially selecting a cornerback and what you see with this team and the scheme. Just, I guess, to start out before we get to the draft, I kind of wanted to get some of your thoughts on Seattle's scheme as they run it right now. I know that it's a very controversial scheme to a degree amongst fans in that we play so much zone. There's so much of the bail technique. They utilize this kick step technique, I guess. That's this cornerback jargon stuff that you know about. What are your thoughts on their scheme? Is the kick step, is it as hard to learn as they say? Is it change up how you got to play the cornerback position that much?
I do think it's a preference of style. I think the man coverage guys, they have a little bit of a harder because once they're hardwired as far as their technique, as far as just their stance, how close they're up to alignment to the line of scrimmage and things like that, it's hard for those guys to kind of back up and kind of give guys room and space. So there is a certain type of DB that you're going to go after in the draft and kind of set your team up that way, in order to make it an easy transition for these guys to be successful at that level of play that they want to see from the Seahawks. So, yeah, there's definitely a prototypical type of player that they like and they look after. And like I said, those man cover guys, it's a hard transition to go from, being all up front and up close and personal to giving guys space 5, 6, 7 feet off the line. So it's a definitely difficult transition.
So you'd say it's probably one of those things that, as far as teaching an old dog new tricks with this type of situation, where Seattle a few years ago brought in Kerry Williams. They didn't usually bring in free agent cornerbacks, got him over from the Eagles, big, long, tall guy, fit into their prototype. But he really struggled with the kick step here. He couldn't pick it up coming off of where he was man on man with the Eagles. And I wrap this up because, of course, there's a lot of people out there who want them some Darius Slay out there, man. There's some Darius Slay love amongst the Seattle fan group. They want to make the trade, pay him top of the market.
Not in Seattle, unless they're doing like split coverages where they've got man on one side, where they just got Slay on the island, and then they're just playing zone on the backside. I don't see it working for Seattle. It wouldn't be a good fit, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well, is that you're going to need to make some changes to what you're doing schematically at that point. You're not really taking advantage of the 16, 17 million per that he's going to want to command the second that you're also trading for him. It's one of those deals where you're trading draft capital and you're paying all the money and you're getting a guy who's just about to be almost 30 years old. Hard to
Right.
understand how that makes a lot of sense. But that's been my contention also with the kick step over time, is it's better to get these guys as young pups and try to train them up and bring them along as they're kind of raw and haven't learned bad habits. I guess the guy we want to first concentrate on just before we dive into some of the prospects first is, what is your thoughts on Trey Flowers? Because again, this is a guy with some controversy in the Seahawk fan base. Some hate him. Some say give it a little bit of time. Others say I've seen enough. Look at him. He got torched by Adams at the end of the year all over the place. Couldn't cover nothing. The guy just ate him for lunch. Where do you stand on him?
I actually like Flowers. It's kind of weird. They drafted him later in the round. He's a guy that basically worked his way. I mean, he started from the bottom, in my opinion. He wasn't a highly touted, prospect, things like that. He worked his butt off to be able to get to where he's at right now with Seattle, and I really think he's got upside. I think the guy is really trending upwards versus trending downwards. It took him a while to kind of get into his groove during the season, but I think he's showing good promise.
I think he's going to get pushed on a little bit too as Griffin gets better, right? Because that's just since we don't travel, or the Seahawks cornerbacks don't travel in this scheme, the guy that's always on the low end of the totem pole in his development is always going to be getting the crap end of the stick. The Devontae Adams, the number one wide receivers, they're going to be just targeting the hell out of him over there.
Sure.
But I know we're of like mind as well on this, where I really feel like you give this kid one more year, as we did with Shaquille Griffin, who by his own measure said, I'm a D plus in my second year. I was horrible. I was trying to be Richard Sherman. And then his third year, he really blossomed and took off. This kid last year, as he's in his sort of development year, still got 3 interceptions, couple forced fumbles. He's got a little Peanut Tillman to him. That's my one little prediction with him. Watch that guy as he goes on. He's got a little Peanut punch out ball kind of thing to him. Then
he's a playmaker. He's definitely a guy that gets a lot of PBUs. He's not a high interception guy.
Right.
I think it's from X's and O's standpoint. A lot of that is a mental thing as far as getting interceptions and kind of playing that game with the quarterback. He's not that creative and slick and smooth, but he's a guy that he sees the ball, he's going to knock the ball out of there. He's going to get a lot of pass breakups, and he's going to be active around the ball. So if he sees a tip ball up in the air, he's going to be the first one to it.
And he's, if I'm not mistaken on this, because of his position in the alignment there over essentially on the left side of the formation, he's going to normally have the free safety helping him kind of over. If the safeties are split, the safety on that side is going to be able to lean to him easier to provide him help, because the strong safety will usually be up there in the box than on the other side, right? In general terms, it obviously can change play. You can go cover 2 and all that stuff, right. But in general terms, they can do that. And I thought he played a lot better when Quandre was in last year after they made that trade mid-season for the guy. Yeah. So okay, we're pretty much a no line slay.
The better the safety is over the top, the better the cornerback is and more comfortable in that zone. He knows that he can, he has a couple more steps or a couple more seconds to get back in his drop and in his step, because he knows he's got over the top help.
That's what I'm thinking with it, because it's especially a guy who's that long and lanky. He's probably always thinking in the back of his head, because he's probably always converted safety. He's not a 4-3 guy, so he's probably thinking all the way that can't get beat over the top, can't be beat over the top, can't be beat over the top. So yeah, you're right. Just having that safety there has got to be help, as opposed to having Tedric Thompson back over the top, who, we could get into Tedric and Leno, but I hate those guys. I know a lot of people don't like those guys, and they're not guys who help their cornerbacks out, it seems like, when they're in the game. They're not beneficial. All right, well, let's start talking in general before we get individual prospects. What is your overall feeling about this draft class in general? Like, it seems like a deep cornerback class, but where do you kind of stand on these guys as you look at them from a 30,000-mile view up?
I see there's like 3 to 4 elite guys, and then it tapers off really, really, really steep after that. In my opinion, I think there's 3 to 4 elite guys that are just going to be your top echelon cornerbacks, and then the rest of them are kind of like in a bunch of, like, just in a group. They all do uniquely things that are good. They have their pros and cons. We'll dive into that. But the bottom half of the corners, they're all just kind of like tapered out. They're all kind of like equal in my book. They don't have anything, to bring to their game that's different than each other. But we'll dive into individually what they do good and what they do bad. But at the top, it's pretty good. It's pretty good at the top. Like I said, if you need a quarterback this year, a cornerback this year that's going to be really, 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 really good if you picking high and you got that on your need. So it's going
And
to
it
be a
seems
good
like
draft for the cornerback.
it seems like it's at the top of the draft. It's high with man-on-man guys. That's where the value is, and that they're and then the zone guys are more into that late third, fourth, fifth, sixth range. That's how you'd kind of stack this draft together if you was looking at. There are some zone guys that are high as well that are your Fulton types or Dantzler types, but not necessarily the
And my other note about this draft is the cornerbacks are getting a lot bigger. I don't know if you've paid attention to the trend, but I think the NFL is requesting these corners to be a lot bigger in stature. You can see it in the combine. The 40 times were atrocious, and that's only due to because they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger to stay up with these big wide receivers and more athletic wide receivers. So you're starting to see I think this is the first year transition of bigger cornerbacks.
Well, and that's the thing that's always bugged me with the staying with the scheme and the way they have is because when Carroll walked into the door in 2010, 2011, they didn't have any basic 6-foot corners in the league. There might have been one, and it was like this, whoa, he's this freak. Who's this? It was just well known. You got these guys at 5'10". That was the money rate, about 5'10", 185. And that was the market standard for years. And then he came in, and so he was able to pluck these guys out because there wasn't as much people plucking them out of the market. Now everyone's looking for a big corner. Everybody wants at least one on their team. It gets so much harder now to bring a guy in that does fit like it was before, where you're just out there in the garden grabbing all the vegetables and fruit, and it's just there. So that's made it tough. But you're right. The thing I noticed in the class, I wish they were longer. That's the one thing I'll say about this class. You got some T-Rex arms.
T-Rex arms.
Just little just little baby arms.
6-foot, stature and everything like that. They're long, but they don't have much length to them. So
yeah, and they're still good ball skills, good jumpers, some explosiveness there. Obviously, you mentioned the 40 time overall, where there is some slower. So we usually get a pocket of guys in that late, 4.39 to 4.4 kind of place. Not as many. It was more in that 4.5 plus range where most teams I think are going to get a little bit worried off by that, though. There are still going to be some guys go high. So. Well, let's start talking individually with what we've got as our top 10 list. I think you've got yours over there. Why don't you go ahead and go through? I'll let you kind of lead the way on this one for us.
Okay.
Not in any particular order necessarily, unless you want to start right with Okudah.
Yeah. We'll start with Okudah. As you know, my take on Okudah. Solid pro. I think he's going to be everything that you want in a guy that you're drafting, top 10 pick. He's not going to give you any issues outside of the lines. He's going to be really good inside the numbers as a leadership standpoint. That's one thing that I took from this guy. He's excellent when it comes to that. He's going to be a weight room warrior. He's going to give you say and do all the right things. This guy, measurables are pretty good. He's coming in at 6'1", 200 pounds from Ohio State. Arm length is 32 inches. Dash is 4.48. Bench press is 11 reps, which came in a little light. We talked about that one. It came in a little light. But the vertical is a 41 inch. So best in class vertical. So he's athletic guy. He's got elite speed. He's physical. He's tenacious. He gets after it. Again, Ohio State breeding that same type of cornerback. Is going to be a man cover cornerback. Really solid. The only knock that I have on Okudah, only con, is basically his questionable hands. Sometimes, it's one of those things. I looked at his counterpart, and his counterpart gets a lot of interceptions on the other side. And this guy, he kind of gets more of the pass breakups and things like that. I think that's because of his questionable hands. He's not a natural athlete. It's a difference between he's a weight room warrior. He grinded his butt off to become who he is, but not a natural athlete, just not gifted that way.
How was he as a tackler? Did you think feel like he really was
shoestring tackler, in my opinion? I think he doesn't really bring the thump, and I think that's where he's going to have problems in the league when he's coming up against these bigger backs, bigger wide receivers that's coming with some force. So
I think your biggest issue too with him was that it was where he's being picked as much as the player he is, right?
Correct. Like I said, from the head up, neck up, he's great. Leadership skills, not going to give you any issues in the locker room, things like that. I really just think he's being overdrafted as far as his position. I think he's a solid pro. I think he's going to be very serviceable for a long time. But taking him top 3, top 5, I just couldn't see it. For my liking, just because of the physical nature.
So I'm hearing kind of high floor, but probably maybe also a low ceiling, which again is not what you usually really want in a top 5 pick. But that's what your kind of assessment is with Okudah, that you're going to get a guy who's going to be a starter, solid pro for you probably.
Right.
But Pro Bowler, all pro,
I don't see it.
Might be a bit of a stretch.
If you're picking top 3, top 5, and he's not a perennial Pro Bowler, I don't know. I don't know.
That's just me too. Especially when you got the freak shows like Isaiah Simmons sitting out there. I'm sure Chase Young will probably be off the board by that point. Maybe I've heard some people saying he might drop a couple. So, but there's there's a bulletproof prospects that got the huge ceiling who like, okay, I don't know their floors like here for sure with Isaiah Simmons, but how do you mess up 4.39 speed with that size, that length, that ability? Like, how do you mess that up? Yeah. But all right, so let's get to number 2.
All right, I'll let you start off on number 2.
All right, who do we have here for our number 2? Oh, yes, Henderson, Cj Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
So Henderson, to me, is a guy that when I watched, the number one thing that jumped out to me was, why isn't this guy over Okudah in a lot of ways? Because maybe physically he doesn't look the part as much as Okudah looks it, but I do feel like he is just so smooth in coverage and so sticky in coverage. He's going to go to a team that's, to me, he's like a 3-4 scheme, man-on-man that likes to run a lot of blitz-heavy stuff, put him out on an island. He'll be a Henderson Island out there, and he'll do just fine out there. He seems to me another guy that, like, I feel really solid about him on the next level as to being a really solid pro, and not just a solid pro, but that is a Pro Bowler to me as he develops and fills out a little into that frame, because he's got that a little bit of the lanky frame that feels like it can fill in a little bit more and maybe get a little bit stronger.
He looks small on film, but I looked at his combine. He weighed in at 202 pounds, which was shocking.
Oh, okay. Well, those boys, they get out there in the off season and they just sit there and they've got them jacking up the weights all day long, just like combine.
He might have put 10 to 12 pounds for the combine, but he's coming in at 6'1", 202. Arm length is 31 inches. His dash came in at 4.39, which is flying. I mean,
That's what puts him in the top 15 for me. That's what and again, I go, what was it again with Okudah? Okudah's like he's a legit 4.4 guy?
A 4.48.
See, and that's where, again, it's like, I'm picking top 5 with the cornerback, your prime Sanders, I'm trying to think of another corner off the top of my head, but it seems like throughout my lifetime, whenever there is one of those corners that's taken in that top 5 spot, they've all been 4.3 guys. You'd never seen a 4.45 or 4.58 guy. That seems a lot slower than what we've seen traditionally, where, again, Henderson fits more into this mold. And you mentioned it with his other stats. It's there with the vert. I think he's got a great short shuttle as well, which is a big thing with those corners.
Vert.
Yeah, it's all there. And then he shows up plus 200 pounds, which he doesn't. He looks 182 on tape at times to me, a little bit on the line. But hey,
he threw up 225 20 times.
Hey, there you go. And that's against Okudah with his 11. Against that, like, again, this is my brass tacks on this guy. Why shouldn't he be above Okudah here? I don't get. He had good level of competition he played at. You can't knock him for that. He was, I watched a couple of game film tape on him, and every one it was like there was nothing I could knock on the guy. I couldn't really pick anything apart. I have
one con for Henderson. It's crazy. I dig deep. I tried to find every con that I could. So my pros on him is elite speed, obviously, press man technique. He's physical. He's a weight room warrior. He's just a beast. My con on him, he didn't have a single interception in 2019. So I'm looking for the interception, but a lot of that could be due to they don't throw his way. A lot of it is you don't get that many interceptions in man coverage because you're always like back to the ball and things like that, and you're just playing to just knock the ball out of the pocket and things like that. In zone, you're just back and you're kind of more like, just reading and developing the routes and stuff like that. So I can see 0 interceptions, but I'd like to at least see 1. It would have made me feel a little bit to see 1.
That's true.
Maybe 2.
Well, I think you probably just hit the nail on the head as to why he's not looked as a top 10 pick, because you got to take away the ball if you're going to be a guy in that place.
Yeah. And Okudah had 3 interceptions. So, I mean,
Well, and here's the thing with that though. Here's also to your point, and I saw this with a lot of the college tape on these corners this year. These quarterbacks are hard line programmed. If they've got a legit corner on one side, they will spend none of
Oh,
the game throwing at him.
yeah,
They will
I think
ignore the hell out of them.
same
Like
thing.
I,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if the pre-snap's telling you go here. It's
They
just
just use
nope.
half the field.
No, I have to feel like I'm trying over here. And in Ohio State to this point, what did they have on the other side? You had Arnett over there. So
Yep.
Arnett's got to keep people. You got
Yep.
to be,
Yep.
you got to stay
Gotta
legit at
throw
that
it
point. Got to
somewhere.
throw it at
That's
Kudos
why he
sometimes.
got most of the interceptions. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. So that's the thing, but I get that with Henderson. It's understandable where you could go, okay, that's going to give us some trepidation. I still think he goes top 15 though. I think somebody's going to be cornerback needy. Say I see him getting it on the next level. He's too good not to go. We'll take
sure.
it.
Sure. I just
All
like
right.
to see at least one in that stat line, but it's all good.
So the next one up, we've got a guy that's going to be this is a divisive one for me. I think we both agree on him, but he's got a big issue that jumps out for me that's going to be his big problem with us is looking at him as a Seahawk. Because I think he could be a Seahawk guy that they could look at the end of the first round, right at 27. He should fall to that place if all things go the way we think they'll probably go in this draft. With that, and that's going to be, of course, AJ Terrell. That corner there. And he's, to me in this draft, potentially maybe the best zone cover corner in this draft, which is what I think would make him such a great scheme fit for what Seattle does. He is the thing our corners have missed over the last couple of years is that they can play that bail technique and they will drop into their zone, but the route read recognition that you need to have to occasionally jump a route and get an interception is completely missing of these guys sometimes. This guy would provide you that. He would jump routes. He would read the quarterback. He would read what he's seeing over tape, and he would do it. So you were actually supposed to go on that one, so you get
No,
on that.
you know how I feel about AJ Terrell. I mean, the guy is a baller. The guy's coming in at 6'1", 195 pounds from Clemson. His arm length is 31. His dash came in at 4.42 reps, 15 reps on the 225 bench. His vertical is 34. So I mean, he was just solid. I mean, everything about him in the combine was solid. I felt like he was very smooth. He had good hips, could turn and flip, and the whole nine. Elite speed, obviously, good cover guy. His cons to me were he's not that physical. And coming in at 195, 6'1", I mean, I can kind of see it. He's probably got to grow into his man body and things like that and get a little bit more physical. He's a poor tackler. I mean, and traditionally, like I said, the zone guys are typically more finesse than the man guys. The man guys are up in your face because they are physical and they want to be, they're good tacklers in that way because they are physical. The zone guys just want to get out there and get interceptions and take it back to the house, which is not bad if that's what Seattle's looking for. And
That's my issue though with their scheme is that they have these guys like that. Like you said, you're right. Predominantly those would be more finesse guys, but what they want in their corners is guys that can tackle. So it's like a paradoxical situation where it's like you want the guys that are in zone that normally are this way, but they're also not going to be doing this one thing you really need them to do to be the complete corner to make your defense rounded out how you ideally see it and how you want it in your mind to play out. So it makes it that much harder to bring in guys that fit.
They would literally have to just sit down with this kid and just really see, and just kind of sit down with him on film. Hey, what were you doing? Breaking down. Hey, you got off this block, but hey, what's going on here? I mean, you missed this tackle, blah blah blah. Is there urgency to tackle? How do you feel? And just kind of pick his brain because I mean, it could be all types of things. It could be schemed on why like they're not tackle heavy and things like that. There's a lot of things that go into actual schemes to where it's like that's not my assignment, so that's why I'm not like up there, making a tackle and things like that.
But was it as that you see that he didn't have the dog in him, or that he had the dog in him, just not the technique?
He's got the dog in him. He's just not. So if you look at Okuda's film, if he sees run, he's ripping off the blocks and just screaming, hauling tail to go make a tackle. I don't see that same thing out of AJ, but at the same time, in zone concepts, you don't really too much come up and run schemes because you are in that deep third or that, you know what I mean? And that, so it's just a different scheme. So it's just, it looks different on film. It's like Okuda is screaming to the ball for a tackle because that's his assignment. Like, hey, if my number one receiver leaves and goes on a slant, then I've got to look into the backfield for the running back because I know he's the next guy to come out of the backfield. So You know what I mean? So there's a lot of X and O's that goes into why, like, maybe someone looks on film like they're not physical or they're not willing to tackle and get in there. So it's a lot of different things. So
Well, and I wonder with that being there, there's the two things with him that I wonder that might X him off the Hawks list, because this is where it will drive to them where they're going to love a lot of what they see with him and they go, God, he's a perfect thing for what we want. He's exactly the corner we want in our scheme. But you mentioned the tackling and then the baby T-Rex arms. Those two, they want 33-inch arms in their quarterbacks. Now it's hard. Good luck on that. There's like two in this draft that got
like
33-inch arms. Like, I mean, just like they're standing on their tippy toes to get their arms a little long. And so you're not going to find it in this draft. You're going to have to make do with what you got if you really want to go get a cornerback. And this guy would be a guy from a talent standpoint, from a scheme fit. You could see him in that back end of that first round. He'd probably be the third to fourth cornerback taken off the list, depending on the type of team that's looking to draft a corner. But I really like him a lot too. He's one of my favorite cornerbacks in this draft, and I'd probably have a little bit of a hard time if they went in the first round with him. Honestly, I'd like to prefer to trade in the second round a little, get another third round pick, and then I'd pick him at the top of the second. But at that 27, that might be just a hair high for him, just a bit. All right, you're next up with I think another one of our favorite guys, both of us here. I know we're going to agree a little bit on, we're going to disagree on some places here, folks, but some of these guys, we both like the same things here, and that's going to be Arnett out of Ohio State. So I'll let you lead on this one.
Arnett, we talked about him a little bit on why he got a lot of, balls thrown his way, and he did get a bunch of interceptions, and he was busy. Like, this guy had plenty of work. Thrown to his side, and a lot of that was a credit to what was on the other side of the field. Coming in at 6 foot, 195 pounds from Ohio State, obviously. His arms came in at 30 inches. That's just, he's not going to be a Hawk.
Killing me, man. Like, that's like, don't newborn babies got bigger arms than 30 inches? Like, couldn't I just take a newborn baby's arm and stretch it out, and that's 30 inches?
and he looks that way. And I mean, 6 foot might be generous as far as his height too. I mean, he looks smaller on film, but the guy is tough as nails.
He doesn't look 6 foot at all on film.
The guy is tough as nails. It makes up for some of the lack of size and things like that. The guy is a great athlete. He's a physical specimen. He gets off blocks, shreds blocks, good playmaker, and good hands. And like I said, it might be a scheme thing. Like I said, Arnett gets off of blocks and Okudah gets off of blocks. And I think it might be just because of that man scheme. Hey, they're reading keys to where, hey, if it's not a pass, you get off that block and you fill in, you come up and fit up the running back or the guy that's coming out.
It is interesting they at Ohio State have them do that, because you got your horses up front, 5-star athletes up front that you think, let Chase Young go take care of business up there. You just worry about the receiver. But they don't, like you say, and they're actually having them come down and help out those other defensive ends. It's just, it just seems a little interesting to me. Do you think with Arnett on the future level, and this isn't, I think, a knock anymore, because these guys can be up on the field now 60% of the snaps upwards, is he a slot corner at the next level? Is that his role?
I believe he's definitely a nickel cornerback.
You're not going to want to put him probably on the outside?
And because he is such a great and aggressive physical corner, you want that, tenacious guy in the nickel. You don't want that, passive guy on the nickel cornerback, because like I said, they will sometimes send a nickel on blitzes and different exotic blitzes, and you want that guy actually at nickel. You know what I mean? So I can see him definitely playing Pro Bowler, no, but at a high level, it's good serviceable cornerback, yes. I mean, he's just got to stay. He's got to stay healthy. I mean, he, played hurt a lot in Ohio State.
He did. So he's got some character concerns too. Chris Carter told him to go back to school. When the Hall of Famers saying, and I've heard and the thing is, he might drop in this draft too, because I've heard that he didn't necessarily take his workouts as serious. He's one of those guys that maybe he's going to take a little bit more time to grow up and learn to become a pro and whatnot, which again, if he starts to drop maybe a little bit, and he's one of those guys, there's always a couple of guys that you think are going to be top of the second round and over talented, but then people are just like, character risks off our list, and he's down to 10 teams that are actually willing to take him, ends up in the late third round. You're like, how did we get Arnett? So, I mean, if I got this guy in that point, I'd be doing handstands. You're talking about a guy now that is an upgraded nickel corner who's going to find a role for, just get him on the field. He'll make plays for you. And the 30-inch arms, though, you're right. Again, I come back to it, like they'll make a little. I went back and looked at it, and it's like they're the same way with the wide receivers, man. Where it's just like you got to be 6 feet tall, you got to run 4.4, you got to have 33-inch arms, 120-inch broad jump. I mean, I went down the line with these guys that in the last 10 years of drafting with Carolyn Schneider, and they have their marks and they stay within them, and they are militant about it. I mean, they will not move off of it. So. All right, well, let's move on to our next one. I'm actually going to bring up one here because I want to talk about this guy that you pointed me to, and I hadn't watched his film and then watched it and then fell in love with him. And that's going to be Gladney from TCU.
Okay.
I think Gladney's got the best footwork in the entire of all the guys I saw. And he's like one of those guys, those drills they got with the guys now. Like it just started as you were leaving college, where they're doing the little drills on the little on the ladders. Is that what they call them? What are they? There's like a little ladder on the ground, and they got them doing their specialized foot drills. Yeah. Watch this guy when he does it, and he looks like a dancer out there. Yeah. And what it allows him to do is he's never off balance. And he plays a lot of zone with them, right? So it's a lot about that read and reacting, but because his feet are always moving underneath him, he can move into any direction he needs to go, and he's actually kind of a bigger guy. I mean, you've got his measurements, I'm sure, there, but for a bigger guy, that movement allows him to really be able to actually stay with some of the smaller, shiftier guys.
Yep. So here's one of those things that are like watching film, you can almost guess how big these players are. So this guy actually is not that big. So he
looks huge. Yeah, he looks huge on film.
He's coming in at 5'10", 191.
Oh, man.
And so arms length is 31. His dash was 4.48. He bench pressed 17 reps, and his vertical was 37. But he's so physical that you think he's huge out there on the field because his felt like
it's a fighter out there. Like, and the receivers wanted no part of him at all. Another one of those guys. Quarterbacks were completely unwilling to test. I watched like 3 of his games. I could barely get anything on him because nobody was testing him. No one would throw his way.
Jim, I want to say he's the gem out of our top 10. He's the gem that's going to be like, where did this guy come from? If you put him in the right system and the right fit, it's going to be a problem because this guy is uber physical. He is ready to tackle. He is ready for anything.
And a hitter. Not just a tackler, but an absolute, like, he will slobber knocker you. He'll put, snot bubbles, all that other stuff they talk about. He will bring that to you. I mean, he was lighting guys up.
In his combine press conference, he talked about that. He said, guys try me all the time. Bigger receivers, whatever the case may be. I'm ready for all the different, things thrown at
all
me.
That smoke.
He's got that dog mentality, and I like it.
Yeah.
You don't hear that same thing from, like, AJ Terrell. Like, that's what I mean by, like, the interviews. Like, you can get a sense of what guys want to do on the field based off of interviews. Like, this guy is literally talking about, hey, I'm undersized, but I'm coming with it. Like, you have that same conversation with Terrell, and he's probably like, yeah, I just want to get a couple interceptions and touchdowns. And,
he's way more in that. It's night and day difference. If you watch their tape, it'd be hard on AJ, even with the picks. It'd be like, but this guy, look at what he's doing. Like, he just and that foot, I kept watching it. I just kept going to his feet, man, because his feet would just be hitting it. And he's doing the short choppy steps, right, to keep himself. But he's pulling it off because he stays with it. He doesn't let it. And again, nobody caught him off guard. He was never really out of position. It was just, I'd like, if they picked him up, that's one of those guys I'd be completely happy with in the second round if he falls in there. In their case, he would be an upgrade over Flowers. Undeniably, he would be a better player right out the gate.
Away from that benchmark of, the 6 foot and 33. I mean,
and it's like, look, they have made at times with the receivers, for instance, there's basically 2 times. They just did one with Ursula last year, but there's really 2 notable exceptions to that 4'4", 6 foot thing that I just told you about. That's Lockett and that's Golden Tate. 2 guys that are 5'10", small hands, but they also had the punt return, kick return ability. So you just got to be able to do something special, essentially, to have them overlook those parameters that they want.
My only knock on Gladney is basically he didn't play top-notch talent. So I didn't see him go up against, top-notch receivers and things like that. But, I mean, what can you blame that on him?
No.
Like, you can't, so I can only go by what I see on film. But that's the only thing I can say. Just in TCU, they really didn't play too many notable wide receivers that I've seen him cover. So,
and that's something worth noting because most of these guys on our list actually did play within SEC, and it's every week it's you're playing against NFL talent at wide receiver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's 100% worth knowing. You got to do some projection with that kid on it and just say, okay, I like what I'm really, like you said, it's the interview. You got to put it all together with him. It's the whole, to me, it's the whole, it's the film with the,
he had 31 tackles and 1 interception.
Yeah.
2019. So, I mean, you think about that, like, can you name a quarterback that is in their conference, like, that's notable, or even the wide receiver that's notable? So,
well, and they did say I remember hearing about the previous year in 2018, he was the top rated, I think, cornerback by Pro Football Focus in college football the prior year. So I'm guessing he just didn't get tested much. That's one of those guys, if you tell me he doesn't have a lot of reception, I go, yeah, who's the other corner at TCU that's on the other side? Because he's getting hit like a drum. You know what I mean? I know he is. So in my game, I 3 games, it's like, I swear he probably got thrown at like 4 times.
Well, he's a ball hawk. He's just a playmaker. Every time I saw him, he's just like, you got guys that are just like waiting for plays to be made.
That's it.
And then that guy is just trying.
He's on a mission.
Play. He's just making play. Like,
yeah. There's nothing read and react about him. He's constantly pulling the trigger, going right where, and that's what I want to see in our guys. That's the thing you want in Hawks. They do the, everybody rally to the ball type thing. We're all there. And that's what you need with that kind of guy that's like that. It's an easier said than done. There's a lot of guys on this, especially these cornerless, that'll get lazy. It's like the plays outside of him and you see him just kind of walking it and you're like, dude, and then the play comes back to him and they still won't jump on it. I mean, we're going to talk, I'm going to my next guy here in a second that we're going to talk about that. I'm going to have you do one in a second here, but I get to talk. I want to go on Diggs before I throw to you. So you
want to go Diggs. Do you have Christian Fulton?
I do. That's who I was going to have you. I was going to have you cover Fulton.
So let's do Christian Fulton. He's coming in at 6 foot, 200. His arms coming in at 30 inches. His dash is 4.43, and his vert is 35.
All right, that's good. Secondary step was good. I think he also did good with his broad jump. The 120 broad jump is the big thing with Seattle. I think he got there with that. And then the short shuttle is the thing they look for on those guys as well, which I think he was okay there. He's got all the ticks. He ticks pretty much. The T-Rex arms is one thing. Oh, who's that? Who we got there?
T-Rex arms right there. This is Shorty Low right here.
That cat has, as you folks see, he's got 28-inch arms. So Fulton's only got 2-inch arms bigger than that. If you guys need this is just for comparison's sake. That's good. Those are kind of short arms. But he's, here's the thing with Fulton, I guess, when I saw him, this is your guy, but he didn't wow me. I didn't get wowed on tape. I just kind of went, it took me a couple games to get a read on him, and then I just went, he's all right.
Yeah, and like I said, he is a Jag. He's just another guy in my case. I got the same notes on him. So my pros on Fulton is basically he's got really great feet. He's got best in class feet. He played the best. I mean, he lined up every weekend against the best.
Very true. Very true.
Press man technique is what he mostly ran. Elite speed, fluid hips. My cons on Fulton would be not the best athlete. Not that physical, questionable hands, and just the hands. He's got 1 interception. He's got 38 tackles, 14 pass breakups though.
There we go.
That shows me that he's a playmaker. He's got great feet. He understands route combinations, things like that. And the pass breakups, the PBUs are crucial. 14 double digit. That's crucial. That means
he's got 30-inch arms. He can only get to it with the ends of his fingers at that size. So it's like you can't expect him to catch it. He's right there, just poking it away.
He's there to just stop the completion. He's his job is done. He's not really taking any balls back to the house or anything like that. But he's solid, serviceable quarterback.
Is he at the end of the second round? Like we just said, we thought, okay, Gladney's an upgrade over Flowers. At the end of the second round, is he an upgrade over Flowers?
Yes, right now, because you get any DB junior, senior year, anybody is an upgrade over Flowers. That's DB University. I'm sorry, that's LSU is the benchmark when it comes to DB. They're just a factory. I don't understand it. I don't,
Well, Stingley's going to be pretty good too next year too. Stingley coming out, that other corner they got there. When you're watching the film, I didn't know if he got thrown out a few times and he was handling his business there too. So
sure, that is DBU, bro. I'm not gonna lie. So when I was in college, that's all we watched was like inside film and practices of LSU DBs to get better.
Oh, wow.
I'm not lying. Like that is legit. DB central, and it's intense. You got to understand, Jamar Chase is lining up and giving him his best every practice.
Oh, no doubt. Justin Jefferson too.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, Jamar's out for a rep. Phew, I'm gonna relax. Justin Jefferson
they take a turn, and he's getting the best. Iron sharpens iron. He's definitely an upgrade over Flowers, 100%.
All right. Well, I'd be on the fence if they did grab that one at that point. I'd be like, I just, again, I wish I wanted to be wowed by Fulton. I'd read the scouting reports and everything was like, oh, I'm going to really like this. And I just didn't get to the same point of that wowness of like, well, what jump? But you're right. You can't argue with the fact, again, every week in the SEC, whether it be Alabama or Georgia or Mississippi, or, you're going through a murderer's row of teams. And it's a different, the Big Ten, nobody plays defense. Out now in the Pac-12, it's gone backwards over the last probably 5 to 10 years as far as the talent out there. And it's worth noting. It absolutely has to be worth noting when judging these guys. All right, I'm going to go to my guy here, and this is a guy that for me, this is my guy. This is my guy right here, and this is my guy in the respect of not my guy, because I think he is completely overvalued. I think it's been inflated through the roof beyond what he should be picked at, and that's Trayvon Diggs. He's got Trayvon Diggs. Everyone, I know there's a lot of Seahawks fans who are wanting this guy picked at the end of the first round. That certainly seems to be where he's going to be selected, is right at the end of that first round rather than into the second. I know he ticks all the measurables. He's a guy that's got probably the best hands in the draft at cornerback. He's a former 5-star wide receiver that then got moved to corner. But my big problem with him is this. Number one, when we talk about that upper level talent of SEC that you have to play against, that he did have to play against at Alabama, he didn't exactly hold up against that talent. Jamar Chase gave it to him. Straight took him to the woodshed in that game. And especially on back shoulder fades, he's not great. And this is especially exacerbated to me because he might be one of the worst tacklers of these top guys. We've talked about some pretty bad tacklers. He is absolutely the worst. And not just a bad tackler, but horrible in getting off the blocks. He gets stuck and he is stuck. And then just to follow it up, he's got a third aspect of a lack of effort on those plays. So he'll be sitting, there was one play side on LSU, I believe, where he's locked up, and the guys that has him locked up, the guy gives up on the block because the play's going over to a strong side or on the weak side. The running back cuts it back, comes back down into his lane, and he's literally pretty much standing there, but because he's given up on it and has no speed or momentum or movement, running back goes right past him down the field. And I saw that stuff over and over again where this guy is going to get you killed in the running game. It's absolutely going to be a massive liability there. And then he's not good enough as a sticky cornerback, especially at the end of the first round, to then validate that selection to overcome that. But what are your thoughts on it?
He better not go in the first round. I'll feel sorry for whatever team that feels he's first round asset. I mean, I'm sorry. You just look at the history of anybody that changes position and think about it. Alabama was probably like draped in talent. This guy's a 5-star receiver and to convert to corner. Red flag to me right there. I mean, the guy had best-in-class hands, speed, the whole nine. He's a natural athlete, playmaker, of course, but he's not a natural DB. When you're a DB for years in high school and coming up in the ranks, there's a certain physicalness and a toughness that you have to bring. Yeah. And not to say that wide receivers can't be physical and tough. It's just not in their nature. You generally just don't come across guys that want to block and be happy to block. And, guys typically that, like, if you're a great wide receiver, you typically not want to come to Seattle to go block for.
Right, no, for sure, dude. That's not the number one play.
Not that guy. So, you know what I mean?
Give me to Kansas City. Running bubble screens and
this guy, again, he's kind of just like Terrell in my analysis as far as he just wants to be a ball hawk. He wants to get in there and catch balls and interceptions and just make plays in that form, but he's not coming up filling the lane, making any tackles and things like that. That's the only comment that I had on him was he just can't tackle. Like, can't tackle.
That's it. It's complete. And again, it's that full aspect. It's one thing when you got a guy who he'll take on a block, he'll fight through the block, and then he doesn't show good form, like you said, the shoestring guys that you were talking about, right? Yeah, he's not a shoestring guy. Yeah. He ain't even a like back of the cleat guy. He ain't even like he's the grab the grass guy. He's grabbing the grass after the guy you just left the space that he was reaching for. That's the type of, and that's where it's like, dude, it's that bad. It's on that level of like, and you watch him in like a bubble screen. Here comes the block on him. You're watching receivers drive him 10 yards back down the field on a bubble screen.
Hug that block.
And he's the key man on it, right? Like he's the guy who's got to set the outside. He's got to set that outside leverage and force it back. He lets him go both ways. He's 10 yards down the field, and the guy can still go both ways. He still doesn't have the outside leverage or inside. To me, it's going to show up again and again. It's going to be such a bad thing on the next level because that NFL teams will expose you on that and they will attack it, and it's not going to get better. You think you said that development of like that doggedness that those defensive players have and those cornerbacks have to have that kind of fight. Even if you're not a good tackler or the most physical guy, you still have to have a little bit of that fight that some of those offensive players don't necessarily always have.
You gotta have that dog, that nastiness at corner. You just really do. There's no way around it. You have to be one of the most like borderline cocky, just doggiest persons on the defensive side, really. And I lined up against the most, vicious guys. And so, I mean, he's not that. I mean, he's going to be a good prospect. They might even convert him back over to wide receiver. If it doesn't work, you know what I mean? I mean, because he's now getting paid millions to do his job, can he mentally get there and be coached to, like, do these things? Yes. He's got to be willing to do it, which right now it doesn't look like he is based on the film. So
I'm one of those guys. I don't think if the puppy ain't going to bite when it's a puppy, you ain't going to bite when it's a full dog. You know what I mean? Like,
I hear you.
All right. Well, okay. So you're up next.
All righty. And I don't have my list up.
I believe we got Dantzler is our next guy, or we can talk Hall.
We can do Hall. Let's do Hall.
All right.
Vise Hall, he's coming in at 6'1", 202 pounds. He's from Virginia. Arms length are 32 inches. Dash, I don't have his 40-yard dash. He didn't run in the combine.
Well, I think he didn't run in the combine. I think he's still got that injury, which is what I think is the thing that I love best about the guy. It seems a little perverse to say this, but the thing I love best about him is the fact that he's got this injury history, because had he not been injured, this guy would have, in my estimation, probably been a first-round pick in this draft. But as I understand it, with the injury sustained and the fact he's not going to be able to really test fully out, I think he's going to try to do his pro day. So I'm speaking out of school a little bit here, but I think his pro days, and a lot of these guys waited because of the late night thing. All the agents told them, did you notice that a lot of these guys didn't do certain tests? And it's because the agents like, we've shown in studies that body isn't maximum performance at 10 o'clock at night. And it's not wrong, but it's just, so they're all doing their pro day stuff. We'll see we'll get a better understanding then.
Testing, y'all need to be in there testing. If the top guy's in there testing, I say, hey, if he's there, I'm there, Yeah. It just comes back to that competitive thing. But if he's hurt, he's hurt. His reps, he did 11 reps of 225.
Yeah.
Light, especially for a guy. He's
got longer arms, though. The longer arm guys, it's harder with getting more reps than it is with. You're a 30-inch guy. I need to see like 18 reps, Yeah. I had a buddy once in high school, those little, I'm sure you've seen this in the weight room. You see those short, stubby guys, and they throw all the weight in the world on it, and you're watching them go, dude, and you got to go like, and it's like, come on, man. Like, this ain't the same thing,
I think this is different. All right, so my pros on Hall, he's physical, he's a tackler, he's a thumper. Comes off blocks, so he will unglue at any second to come, fill the lane. He's got good hands. He's a playmaker in my estimation. He's always around the ball. He plays hard. And one thing I noted just watching his film, he plays to the whistle. I mean, this kid, he plays to the whistle. There's a lot of guys that's coming up next that I'm just like, whoa, like, I mean, are they really just not playing all? And that's a Hawk guy. I mean, if you're gonna, like
you just hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
And getting to the ball and high motor, he's a high motor. My con on him was his route recognition. I don't think he understands the concepts of route trees and combination things like that. If he understood it a little bit better, I think he'd get a lot more interceptions.
He kind of goes on gut instinct, it feels like.
Exactly.
He's got a great gut, but that's what it feels like.
I can only take me so far when,
Yeah. And again, they'll feast on you at the next level when they realize how your gut works.
Oh, yeah, they'll find you. Trust me. The hashes get a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, how did they know to give me that way? Like, they know. They've been watching what you're doing.
It's coming a little bit right here instead of right there in college. So they'll find you. That was really my only knock on him. He's got to just step up his X's and O's and understanding of route combos and what the offense is trying to do in different scenarios.
I felt like he was the most, maybe that's overstating because we always want to say he's the most. He's one of the most instinctive cornerbacks in this draft. And that, like you're talking about that gut or whatever, but his ability to just react to stuff on the fly and go when that's what jumps out to me at the tape. And again, you said the finishing the whistle, a little bit of the nastiness that the Seahawks players will like in their guys, that little bit of that edge. He's got all that. Good tackler. He's solid all the way around. You mentioned his 32-inch arms, which is going to absolutely draw him to the Seahawks. And this is one of those guys that I think in an ideal situation, they just got an extra 4th-round pick as part of their compensatory picks that they just got. We got 3 of them, a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th. If you're in that 4th-round range and he happens to drop, and I know that you've mentioned, well, the talent there is so good with him. How could he fall that far? But then I think of it through the lens of there's so many good cornerbacks in this draft, and there's such a rich draft with the tackles and guards. There's other positions that are also kind of deep that I could see a guy with some injury concerns who played a little smaller college. I think he did. Maybe he falls a little bit because of that, even with some of his good testing numbers, but his pro day will probably go far towards determining what the final outcome is on that.
Definitely. He's definitely got to, test out good and, say the right things and his pro day. All right. So that is, who do you have?
That is I think that's our top basically 10 we've got. I think a few guys,
We've got one more because we didn't talk Dantzler.
Oh yeah. Dantzler. Gosh, you're right. Okay. Dantzler. So this is another guy. I guess I'll start a little bit here. We'll both combo this one. As I understand it with this guy and watching a little bit of him, he's got decent length, decent size. Another one of those guys, I think he doesn't quite get there on the arms front, though. I think he's another one that's just a 30, 31. Well, how long?
30 inches.
Oh.
30.
What the hell, man? Did the mama's not getting him milk? Like
280.
Yes, he's 6'2" with 30-inch arms. The nice thing about him is his ability in zone. He's another one of these guys that in zone looks really good to me. His speed, though, looks like it could be a problem on the next level. Is he fast enough? Yeah, he is tortoise slow. And that's where you just, like I said, you like to see guys at the 4.39. What'd he run?
He ran a 4.64.
So, yeah, like I said, you want we got Shaquille Griffin on this team. That guy ran a 4.39 at the combine.
Yeah.
What'd you just say?
4.64.
Jesus. Aren't there linemen running that fast now?
Oh, shoot. They run faster than that.
Oh, my God, dude. 4.64. Was he doing it on one leg? Like, all right, well, man, that guy's got to drop to the 3rd at that point, right? You're not I don't care about the instant. Oh, you tell me your thoughts. Give me the ray of sunshine here with this guy. Give me I'm going to drop him in the 2nd round because he does
this. They love him. I mean, they've got him projected high. I'm not as high on him. I hope he falls to the 4th, 5th round so we can snag him.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good player. It's just those 2 factors are big. Those are big.
His IQ. The charts. He's the tallest. I believe is one of the tallest. There's one other one that we'll talk about in the honorable mention that's an inch taller than him, but he's one of the tallest. The speed doesn't really bother me with the great IQ though. His IQ football IQ is probably one of the highest out of anybody in this draft is what I've noted. He had 40 tackles, 6 PBUs, and 2 interceptions in 2019. So. He was pretty active in the run. He's willing to tackle, get in there, and mix it up. Like I said, he is one of the few zone guys, and like I said, I mean he's right up there with the the cream of the crop based off of what Pro Football Focus and things like that.
How did he look to you against, because he is a little bit bigger guy, like with flipping his hips and with some of the smaller guys when he was out aligned with them? How did he do?
Well, he has problems flipping his hips because he's 6'2", which is, I mean, that's right. That's 6'2", 6'3" is kind of like that. That's uncharted territory for a QB, and like they're gonna have problems getting in and out of their drops. But the good thing is he's gonna be playing a lot of zone where he's not gonna have to flip his hips and things like that as much as a man coverage guy, and that he's always gonna be 5 to 6, 7 feet off the wide receiver anyway. Initially, that's going to give him time to make up for that difference in speed that he's lacking. So as long as that IQ and he can recognize route combinations and he's got a high IQ, I really don't think that 40 time will hurt him. I think he plays a lot faster on film.
That's a fair point.
I just think he's
He didn't look that slow to me. Like that
Yeah.
40 time that's like maybe his hammy was like.
I've seen guys
that
just can't get the 40 down, and he plays a lot faster on film than his 40, tells it.
That makes sense. It's a track thing, and it's when you got bullets going and you got guys that are hitting you and the adrenaline's pumping. It's a whole than when you're in a gym and you're looking down. It's just it has to be. Okay. So then the question I've been asking on these guys, I'll ask you with this one. We're at the end of the second round with him. We've got our 2 second-round picks right now. The Chiefs' last pick of the second round, and then ours is 27th, 28th. Is he an upgrade of Tre Flowers at that pick? Do you take him at that pick to upgrade Flowers or go in a different direction?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
It's I would say our whole top 10 is an upgrade from Flowers, I believe.
Wow.
In my opinion, I think
even Arnett Arnett would be playing in the slot at the next level.
Not Arnett, our top 9 then. Not Arnett. Excluding Arnett. I think our top 9, excluding Arnett, would be an upgrade from Flowers.
And I think you're pretty universal in, though you don't think any of them are first rounders in that 27th range in the first round.
Oh, because the draft itself is so deep that I don't think these guys are like our high first rounders. They're the second to third, early fourth guys.
Right. After we get past Okudah and Henderson, I think there'll probably be one other guy that'll surprise us that's picked in the top 20 that somebody reaches for. But outside of those guys, these guys are probably all in that second round phase. It's just a matter of do they fall into the late second round where Seattle's picking in that back end, which is that's a big question.
2 cornerbacks off the board first round, if I had to guess. 3.
You'd be shocked if there's 3?
I'd be shocked if there's 3 off the board.
Yeah, see, I think that there's going to be 4 cornerbacks taken off the first round in this draft. Isn't that crazy? But the reason is I think it's driven by a couple of factors. Number one, there's no cornerbacks in free agency. Mm-hmm. Number 2, last year was not a deep draft for cornerbacks, and everybody went out and took defensive linemen. Mm-hmm. That was what everybody went after. And so you've got this thing now into this year where we're going to have teams that are going to need corners, and there's not going to be anything in free agency. We saw this with the tight end market and what drove Seattle to Greg Olsen, where it's just market scarcity. Essentially, you just don't have, and it drives everything into that, and that's where everybody's going to just hammer it and overdraft at that point, like they did with the defensive end last year. Because there were no free agents last year really on the defensive line or defensive end. There were a couple, but they're older.
I see what you mean. And now there's abundance of DNs this free agency.
There you go. Which you're not going to see as many defensive ends. It's an inverse thing because I will guarantee last year we had Seattle. I think they took the 17th defensive lineman or a pass rusher when they picked it like 28 in the first round last year. Right. So that this year I think this year it's going to be tackles. You'll see probably 8 tackles. We'll see 3 quarterbacks I think. But I would be shocked if we do not see 4 corners taken off the board. Which again was going to make you sad because the one guy we'll get to the safeties in a second, but you might see a guy like Antoine Winfield not go, but then they get 4 corners. That's how stupid people are. That's how dumb these front office people.
Winfield don't go in the. I mean, I'll pick Winfield over a lot of these corners that I'm seeing. Like seriously, I would plug him in at corner if I had to. Like it's just I don't understand this. I
don't know if there's a thing to it. I'm going to get a little bit woo-woo on this as far as new agey, but these guys that are kids of former NFL players, like DK Metcalf's his dad was a lineman, okay, but he also had an uncle who was Metcalf for the Cleveland Browns, who was a badass do-it-all guy for Cleveland, he torched the Seahawks in the 80s. I remember the game. It was like, whoa. You come from these bloodlines of guys that have been training ahead of you and then you come into it. Like Lockett, for us with the Seahawks, his dad and his uncle both played in the NFL. There's something to me, the Bosa brothers, the father Bosa, the Matthews. There's something to targeting in guys that to me have some of that lineage in the NFL and bring him in and understanding. And Antoine Winfield's father was, you want to talk about a dog, you want to talk about a junkyard dog of a player. 5'8", right? 5'8", but the best tackling cornerback probably in league history. And I'm not overstating that at 5'8". I mean, he was absolutely willing to put his nose anywhere. And so he comes from that, and you watch him on tape, and he looks like Earl Thomas. Yeah, he's got that legacy, and he looks like Earl on tape, and you're just like, how are NFL? Why is this guy not being talked about?
He fills so many slots for you: special team, punt return, kick return, like corner safety, whatever you want to call him. Like, just on the field, he's gonna make a play. Like,
nothing he can do. No, they're talking about the high floor, high ceiling guys. That's this. He's going to come out and he's this. In his worst case scenario, he's going to be this, which is an upper level player. And his best case scenario is an all pro and absolutely one of the best free safeties in the game. He looks to me on film just like Earl looked in a lot of ways back at Texas when Earl came out. A little bit bigger version, maybe not quite as fast as Earl, but man, that's a guy I'm going to be watching on draft day to see who picks because they're going to be getting a hell of a player in the first. And I think he's going to creep into the first round. They're finally starting to get them. This is like it's taken the I think the Cowboys.
I think the Steelers.
He would be a perfect player.
He's a Steeler. I'm telling you.
I'd be perfect. He'd be perfect. Minka Fitzpatrick and him.
Drafted by Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me know and just refer back to this video right here.
I will. This is going to be saved. So we're going to have this on. You say Steelers. I say Cowboys. Okay. I think the Cowboys are going to end up jumping in on them because they're going to lose. I think Byron Jones to free agency. Okay. Well, let's get to. So we've got through our top 10. Let's look at let's do honorable mentions, then we'll get your top 3. So I'll start out with honorable mentions because I did want to talk about this guy because his tape really blew me away. And I felt like he's a guy that when you look at is going to be in that 4th to 5th to 6th round range, pure Seahawk cornerback, a guy with a huge amount of upside. I see a guy that I don't know that he's going to get there. He may not, but Lamar Jackson of Nebraska, big cornerback, tested well, I believe, at the combine. Very strong, and on tape looks like a great zone fit. He's got decent enough ball skills. They're not perfect. A sure tackler. What are your thoughts with him? He looks like to me a Seahawk cornerback, their prototype of how they draw it up in the lab, so to speak.
He is definitely a Hawk profile. So he's coming in at 6'2", 208 from Nebraska. Runs a 4.59, arm length 32. Benched only 10 reps. Which was surprising, and because he's so physical.
Looks strong. He looks strong on the field.
He's so physical on film. His vertical is 36. He's a playmaker, physical, good tackler. Things that he can clean up. Again, when you come in at that 6'2", 6'3" as a corner, because they've got him listed. So Nebraska's got him listed at 6'3", but the Combines, got him at 6'2". So I believe he's more 6'2" than 6'3". His footwork needs some cleaning up. He takes plays off. I've seen he's
not a finished product.
That separates those elite top guys, from being at the bottom of the barrel is the motor, the drive, the taking plays off, the lackadaisical plays, and they see it on film, and those NFL scouts and recruiters, they look at that.
It's especially hard for corners, right? It's not great to see it on any guy on the field, but the defensive lineman, you got a guy who's been out there on a long drive for 8 plays and he's just been getting hammered by the double team. It's like, I get it, but the guy that's out there that's been playing zone off coverage, running 3 steps and stopping, and then he's taking a play off, and especially the effort stuff like you're talking about, the Trayvon Diggs crap that I would see where it's just, lollygagging his way around, and then the play comes to him and they're like, oh no, what do I do now? The play's here. And then they were not prepared at all to tackle. Their head's not in that point. And you're right, they're taking plays off. And that's what it looks like, is just, I don't have to do anything here.
His stats for 2019 were pretty good. He had 40 tackles, 12 PBUs, and 3 interceptions.
That's nice to me. That's where it's again, and the level of competition's got to be brought into it because it's the Big 12, and nobody plays. He's like probably the one corner out there that a quarterback is going against that's like semi-legit week in and week out. But with that said, that's what I saw on tape as well. He's got some ball skills. The pass breakups, we're talking about most of these guys being in the 6, 7, 8 range. He's up there in the double digits this past season, and he's bringing the tackles with it. Again, this is where you just see him as a guy that's such an ideal fit for Seattle. You mentioned not a finished product. There are some flaws to his game, but you can see where the potential could come into play, especially teach this guy that kick step and have him dropping into that zone where he'll get him comfortable with it. I'd be interested to see how that would work, and I'd love him. If they get him in the 4th, 5th round, this is the phase get these guys. This is that Richard Sherman, Byron Maxwell, Tre Flowers area, that money area that's been diamonds in the rough.
I want to mention this guy. He's highly touted on other people's list, but not on mine. So this Jaylen Johnson from Utah.
I didn't feel it at all.
He is, I'm telling you, so out of our top 10, I believe he's still going to be drafted before one of those top 10 guys, and just quote me on that. And just because I just see a lot of people have him really, really high on the draft boards. They think he's like a first-round talent. I don't see it.
Not at all.
He's 6 foot tall, 193, arms coming in at 31. His dash was a 4.5. I mean, decent speed. His reps are 15, solid. Vertical is 36. My pros on him is he's got good feet. He's physical. He sheds blocks. He's athletic. He's a zone corner, which is too far in between. But he doesn't really play hard. His stance is horrible. He's
all legs. He's like a guy. His legs are like this, and his upper body's like this, and his legs are like that. You know.
His stance is horrible. He needs a whole new retooling of everything. Doesn't like to tackle. He eyes the backfield. I mean, he just stares into the backfield every play. I mean, he won't even look at the receiver. He's in the backfield looking at the quarterback and the ball the whole play, and he gets burnt that way.
And he doesn't feel the receiver. Like, he won't feel him. And I watched the tape too. He does not feel the receiver as he's coming past or in the zone. And you're playing zone, you need to feel the guy. You've got to feel it in the zone.
Going by him, and he doesn't even see it. And they're just like taking the lid off the zone on him. And so they got to clean up a lot with this guy. I mean, he's got the prototypical size and the whole nine, but they got to clean up a lot of his bad habits. And a lot of that is just due to laziness, in my opinion, just off of, what
I think it's the splash plays with that guy that's going to get people to buy in on him, because they're going to see him when he shoots those tackles. He can hit. Like you said, when he gets off a block and he throws a guy to the side and he just comes at him just, unafraid and dives in. But the problem is the consistency's not there on tape for me. You give him the first round, early second for me. I need to see more I need to see upside, but I need some safe level, like I'm saying, of a higher floor that I know what I'm getting here to a degree too. I can't be all just shooting for the moon and hoping and then again with that guy, what am I seeing as special traits here? I see okay traits. I see traits that come and go, the tackling, right, the ability to jump the routes, but I didn't see it just consistent like you saw. He didn't look smooth to me, and that's what I want my corners, his ability, his change of direction, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say, is like I didn't see as good a change of direction all the time.
Any direction. You're talking about change of direction. He's just I don't know.
Forward and back.
There's a couple guys that are grass killers that we're going to get into that are like, you know what I mean, later in the draft, corners. They're decent guys, but they're grass killers. They just, like I said, they just stare and watch. And he's kind of one of those guys. He decides when and he wants to get in and stick his nose in it, and when he doesn't. I don't know.
If the Seahawks take him, that's one of those prospects. If they take, that'll be like my LJ Collier from last year. I will be pissed. Like, I'll be visibly angry if they took Johnson in the first round. Like, that'd just be the Seahawks thing to do too. Just trade in the top of the second, and then we just really liked him. He fits, and they picked 2 guys from Utah last year. Don't forget that. So that area scout, I've always maintained those area scouts they sell their guys, and if they're a better seller than the area scout from, the guy who went to the SEC and was looking at, some of these other guys, it's like, okay, I guess he's on the Seahawks now. Great. So, and they're like,
who you got honorable mention?
Well, I wanted to talk about my guy was like, you're actually up next on the honorable. I wanted you to talk about the Byron guy. Byron, what is his name? Brian. There was one guy that we've not hit on that was your sleeper that I wanted you to touch on, because I didn't get a chance to watch his tape.
You're saying Brian Cole? I actually
Brian Cole.
I went to the books and I took Brian Cole off. I actually scratched him off and I added a different guy. Actually, 2 other guys on honorable mention. One guy is a Hawk. 2 guys that are Hawk profiles, and I'm actually gonna probably just touch on them together. So Jeremy Chin is what the combine, everybody just raved over this guy. Just Jeremy Chin. So they say, hey, if you like Isaiah from Clemson, what's Isaiah's last name? Simmons. If you like Simmons from Clemson, you can get a poor man Simmons in Jeremy Chin. Yeah. So they saying this guy is just like off the charts. So he comes in at 6 foot, 221 pounds. And he runs a 4.46 40, and then 20 reps on the bench. I mean, you just name. He's just off the charts. He's got like a 40-inch vertical, off the charts. Just everything's off the charts. When you go to the film, you don't see anything. First of all, they're not playing anybody. Literally, I fell asleep watching the film.
South Dakota State.
From a specimen standpoint, I mean, if you can get this guy in the 4th, 5th, late, you know what I mean, I would be all over. I would be ecstatic to just see if I can put something together with him because he's got all the physical God-given tools. You just got to try to put something molded into something.
To me, he's a little bit of fool's gold because that's you nailed it on the head. Where it's what he is he's running free safety speed and a strong safety body.
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch the tape, and that's what I was watching last night with him was the South Dakota State tape, and the hike happens, and he's another one of these guys who reminds me of this Oklahoma linebacker in this draft where he's got to first see it. Okay. And then I'm gonna go, and it's like play after play. You see that
he's not
reading a damn thing. But no, it's that it takes even a little longer after the play where it's like, okay, 1,000, 2 1,000, and he's still in his squat. He's still like, I'm gonna hit something, and then it's like, well, hopefully it comes your way because you're going nowhere near where the play side is right now.
He's taking false steps and bad steps. And angles.
That's it. Wrong. It's just there's no instincts there, man. It's all
that was just like, hey. You want to play football later in his high school career? Hey, you run pretty fast. You want to come play football? Here's a football, late boomer, just probably like start playing in his sophomore, junior year playing football in his career and just test it off the charts.
The thing is with him too is you've got to keep him in the box. If he's a box safety, and you at that point are fully committing yourself. If you're looking at this guy long term to going to the cover 1, cover 3. You're going to keep a free safety over the top, and this guy's going to be basically in that roamer role. He's going to try to take away everything underneath or in the flat at that point in time.
All right, so the second guy that I kind of wanted to combo with Chin was, and I think this is who I think the Hawks should grab in the 4th or 5th round because I think he'll be there. So a Hawk profile guy. Is Reggie Robinson II.
Reggie Robinson II. I've heard the name, but I've not seen any tape on him.
From Tulsa. He is, if you go to his film, he is prototypical Hawk profile. He's aggressive. He's everything that you want in a DB in the Hawks scheme. I'm looking at his film earlier today, and he just jumped off the charts. He's a good playmaker with great hands, a great tackler. Natural athlete. His cons, he can clean up his footwork. He takes a couple plays off. That takes you out of that upper echelon of a high draft pick and his motor. And a lot of guys, you get that kind of same con feedback is motor, taking plays off. Footwork can be cleaned up, but he's a playmaker, good hands. He's got the size. He's got the speed. He's aggressive.
Is he a zone guy?
He's a zone.
Yeah.
He's a
okay.
Guy.
And what was his size on him?
He's 6'1", 205.
All right.
31-inch arms. Runs a 4.4. And then he's got 22 reps on the bench.
Ooh. Okay.
36-inch vert. So I mean, he tested off the charts. I mean, 4.4 is like 4.44 blazing.
Oh, we're breaking up a little bit here.
Like I said, taking plays off in the footwork and the motor at that next level. So Reggie Robinson II from Tulsa.
Where do you see him being picked at?
I say late 4th.
Late 4th. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, that's where they've got those two. I felt the draft and looking at the prospects so far. It feels like about mid 5th round is where things kind of really fall off. But in the about mid 5th, you can still get a guy who's got some juice to him who could potentially really have some upside. After that, it's all flyers and prayers and probably, it drops off the cliff at that point. So back up. We are back up and running. Sorry about that. So we were just finishing up, D. You had one more sleeper that I wanted to get from you in regards to cornerbacks to be in that 4th to 6th round range. Who do you got for me?
So I've got AJ Green from Oklahoma State. So AJ Green, Oklahoma State, baby. AJ Green, 6'1", 202 pounds. His 40 dash was very slow at 4.63, which we like. Hey, Seahawks profile, we like that.
That's right. That's the prototype.
The prototype. Let's go. His pros. His pros is basically he had decent hands, good feet work. He's a zone cover guy. That's why I wanted to just profile him in the Hawks kind of like range because he's going to drop in the draft. I don't think he's going to be. He's probably going to be fifth rounder. Zone coverage is predominantly played. His cons is not too physical. Kind of Kuda like arm tackler. But the good news is he had a lot of tackles. So call it what you want. He had 49 tackles. He had 5 PBUs and 1 interception. So
was that because he was letting the guys catch it and then he's tackling it after they caught the ball?
Idea. He does a lot of just like he lets them catch it or he lets them like kind of run by him and then he like grabs them and pulls them down like kind of tackles. I mean that's just how he does it. But he's got a lot of tackles. 1 interception. That's pretty low for a zone cover guy for a full complete year. I mean, so not a lot of production in the interception and turnover land, but he's 6'1", 202 pounds, so prototypical.
But let's wrap up a little bit. I guess my final question I want to pose to you, because we've looked at these cornerbacks now, and just to put this all into perspective, we know that this is a super deep draft for offensive linemen in the first and second round, maybe beyond that, but we know for certain in the first and second round. But we also know now it's a very deep and good draft for cornerbacks in the same respect. There are 4 equivalent positions in this draft where only receiver maybe contends with them as far as its depth and quality goes. So with that all said, if you're the general manager for the Seahawks and you're looking at it, knowing what you know about Tre Flowers, and I know you're relatively high on the guy, do you go in the route of a cornerback in that first to second round range, or do you go in an alternate direction because you feel strongly enough that Flowers is at least, I know you've said that all those guys we mentioned would be upgrades in that 10 that would be there available in those first 2 rounds. So I know that this is, maybe we're saying a little bit of 2 different things here, but I don't think it's completely saying 2 different things. I think there's a point to be said at brass tacks, bottom line. No, I'd rather just stay with Flowers and go with the offensive lineman because the quality's there. That's the thing where this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Where do you kind of stand on that overall?
I believe that they need to address the D and offensive line. I think they need to start off with the linemen in this draft and work their way outwards as far as this draft. Like I said, they've got a lot of guys on the fence as far as free agency. They definitely need to protect Russell. I think the DB should be addressed in the later rounds, 4th, 5th, 6th round, and just kind of address it through teaching these guys up. The way that they've typically done is to, teach them up and, get them up to speed with their program because it's not a complex program to learn. You just get guys that can fit into that system and roll with what you got.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's one where it's just, especially with some of those diamonds in the rough we've talked about that are the guys you mentioned, Lamar Jackson, those guys, there's going to be some guys in there that do fit into that Seahawk profile for what they're looking for, as opposed to early on. They'd have to kind of squint their eyes a little bit, I feel like, on some of those T-Rex arm guys to bring them in because they've been so ardent in the past on that 33-inch arm or sub 33-inch arm, being a prerequisite. So especially when there's not the 4.4s going with it, we're seeing 4.56s and 4.63s, and it's just like, man, come on, guys, you gotta go faster than that to be jumping on the list. I mean, hell, Shaquille Griffin, who's our linebacker, ran a 4.39 at the combine. It's like, God. Well, DMack, I really appreciate you hanging in here with you. I know you've got a channel going. I want to give you a chance to, plug that and let everyone know as you just kind of start up your channel there as regarding a lift service. So let everyone know your channel and where to find you.
My channel is pretty simple. I mean, you just look in
DMack
and just search DMack. You'll see me there. I do a bunch of different content. Basically, DMack talks trash. I talk trash about a lot of different things. I just do a lot of content on anything that's relevant, what's new, and what's going on in today's news. So, yeah, you can find me there, DMack, and just search for me, and you can subscribe and like as many videos as you want.
Please do out there. Please subscribe. Please like. This is a friend of the show, part of the Hawks Nest now, man. You're part of that. You're into the feathers.
You
liking it?
I love it.
All right. Well, I'm sure we're going to get you back here at some point again, especially if they're drafting a corner or a safety. I'm going to have you scouting them up, and if we might happen to sign or make that Darius Slay trade, you never know with these Hawks what they could do. They're always a little bit wily in that respect. Sure. But I appreciate you joining us here on the Hawks Nest, and definitely want to have you back again here soon.
Thank you so much. Let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks. Don't you forget.